Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Ion Radio. I'm Ken, and with me today, special guest Rob from Imperial Star Shop. Rob, welcome.
Hello. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me be here, Ken.
Absolute pleasure to have you here. For those that don't know, Rob is the owner of Imperial Star Shop. You've seen a lot of his work on our channel already. You've got, how many mats do you have now, Rob? I think you have 4 or 5.
Exactly 7, if you count the different designs and the different sizes. We're up to 7 now.
Outstanding. So I know you've seen some of them already in full bloom here. We've got a couple more episodes that have not yet aired yet with some of your mats.
Oh, definitely. And they're definitely shipped all across the US, Canada, even a couple in Europe. All of the Kickstarter pre-orders have been shipped out, so it's really exciting to see my mats in players' hands and on their tables.
Well, they're outstanding. For anyone that wants to get a little bit more of an in-depth review of the mats, we've got another data link video with the Urban Planet mat. So go ahead and take a look at that. The link will be down below. But Rob, let's. I've got a couple questions for you, and I'm really excited for you to kind of talk about Imperial Star Shop, your mats, your creative process. So how did this all begin?
Well, I think that the impetus for me really beginning this project was I showed up to my local game store one day, and all the Warhammer players were taking up the table space. So me and my friend had to use the card tables, and we ended up playing a game of Armada on 2 sideways Magic the Gathering mats with like dragons and fireworks coming out of them. And you know, it was a really exciting battle. I wanted to take pictures and show my friends, but the background was so completely busy and overrun with this, you know, fan art that yeah, we couldn't make sense of it. So I just really want to be able to have something that fits the thematic and awesome nature of our miniatures to decorate the table.
And then that clearly got you to design your first one, which was the Urban Planet mat.
Right. Well, at the time, this was shortly after Asmodee had sold the miniatures away from FFG and into a new studio. You know, the future was looking very uncertain, but I knew Armada, you know, still had a very strong player base of people who really want to see something thematic. I had the idea that they probably wouldn't be coming out with, you know, the most iconic battle for the Clone Wars in a mat like they have for Bespin or Endor or things like that for the Civil War factions. So I knew that, you know, we wanted to have a Coruscant map, and I tried my best to make it happen.
It looks great. I mean, we've enjoyed playing on it, and we had some really big battles on that map.
Absolutely. I mean,
go ahead.
No, I mean, it's amazing to see what different people have done with it. You know, everyone has a different take on, you know, the kind of fleet that should fly on this map. You know, even online, we have integrations with Tabletop Simulator, so it's always an awesome thing, you know, to see that mat on camera or in person.
So, Rob, talk to me about the creative process you have in building these gorgeous mats. Where do you start? You know, how do you get around with getting them built up, the trim and everything else to that final product that we see at home?
Right. So there's a lot of different steps. The first thing I start off with is like the general concept. That's like the angle at which you see the planet, you know, what hallmarks should be important. And then we go back and look at the films and try to pick up little things that make that battle in the Star Wars universe unique. So with the Urban Planet map, you know, we started kind of from a black box. You know, we had some inspiration from different fan art, but it was ultimately something that we created with ourselves with an online artist. And we wanted to do something where it's like play with perspective a little bit. So each one of our mats has a slightly different angle of how you're approaching the planet, or how you're lining up to defend it. So I think each one of them I want to be unique in that way. So for the urban planet map, I kind of took inspiration from the old FFG mats. Since it was the first one that we were starting off with, I want to start off with a familiar territory. So a lot of times, you'll see something down in the bottom left corner, and then like a complete star field in the upper right corner as this kind of like diagonal play with space. And so we started off with that, and then it's little iterations. Okay, let's get the base, the black and yellow highlights of the cityscape. Okay, let's do some cloud cover. Okay, let's do the halo of the star coming around the edge. And they're little layers that we build up. And then part of it is also making fun landmarks for when you're flying on the other side of the map. And so that really creates something that's kind of holistic. I try to make sure things aren't spaced out too much, too regimentally, but I still want to feel like the board is a full place. And then in the manufacturing process, we had to iterate through a few different factories, see which one, not just like the best or the cheapest deal, but little things like, how tight are your tolerances for the width and the height, of a thing that you can produce. And getting somebody to print, a 6-foot-long mouse pad, essentially, it's a tall order. After that, I wanted to have something pretty unique of like a silver stitched edge. I knew that I wanted to have a stitched edge because at my local shop, we have 2 adorable fuzzy little creatures, 2 cats named Freya and Loki. They're wonderful to play with, but they tend to claw at and fray the mats that are there. So I knew I wanted to have a stitched edge because it needed to be like durable, something that could really last. And so we looked over a couple different color choices, and I was kind of worried, if it had a edge that was like black, it would look very odd, like off center, if your planet was just cut off by this black line at the edge of the map. It's a symbolic symbolic edge, not a physical one, when it comes to our game. So I actually had them do a silver kind of stitch and then print over it with the ink. So it has a certain effect to it. It like looks very shiny, and it still continues the design. And so that was something that kind of came from an idea that came from the factory as far as something that they could do to improve the project. And that was really cool. It's always really interesting how different artists or manufacturers, come up with their own little ways to help this project come together. So, as the producer, that makes me very happy.
No, I actually didn't really notice at any point that it was ink on the stitching. It just kind of blends seamlessly.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can tell it. That's there, though.
Mm-hmm. And you can see that with some of the yellow highlights. Hopefully my little webcam will pick this up. But you have this yellow part that's part of the cityscape, and then here it is on the fabric, and then here it is also going around the stitched edge.
Mhm.
So it's completely seamless in that way. And I wanted to be able to make a mat where if you flew off the board, you flew off the board. So being able to continue that image seamlessly meant a lot to me. So yeah, that was a really cool thing that I didn't know. I didn't even know was possible when this project started off.
So I'm gonna, as soon as we're done here, I'm gonna be looking at all of them again, just paying really close attention.
A little Easter egg for you to find.
Exactly. We'll have a couple pictures here to showcase that also.
Absolutely.
So we've talked about the creative process, and then we've talked about how you've got your start. So now you had a Kickstarter as well.
Right.
That kind of brought some new mats in. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Right. So the project started off around August or September or so. I had about 29 backers. The project was 157% funded, which was just amazing to me. This was a time where we had no news about the future. AMG made the announcement that they would only continue to support reprinting product and competitive play for Armada, but without any tournaments in the near future, things seem pretty bleak. But I think it's like a really testament to the strength of the community that things were able to stay the course. So by about November or early December, I had the art for 3 different designs fully published. And then I was able to use those 3 designs to make 2 different cuts, a 6-foot by 3-foot cut and a 3-foot by 3-foot cut for those people who like to mix and match, or, those task force or X-Wing players out there. And so it took a while for some of these things to come through. The artist that I use is on the other side of the world. The factory is on the other side of the world in the opposite direction. So there was a lot of coordination that needed to happen, and to make things happen before certain holidays cause different work stoppages and things like that. So you throw in a global pandemic and a worldwide shipping problem, and it was looking pretty bleak, where I wanted to hold on to the project, kind of hedge my bets and wait for clearer skies. And so I really have to thank all my backers, because they had faith in me, and now they're able to have like an awesome product. So that meant a lot to me. It's I think it's just a little bit more than giving them a discount or something like that. I think it's like, if we're able to pool our resources together, then we can keep things going in the community.
That's great. Actually, you touched on one thing that I didn't think about before, because we're here at IN Radio predominantly using the 3x6 mats, but you said that you also create them in the 3x3 sections. Is that something that goes into while you're doing the graphic design work, that you intentionally like take things and throw them out and then readjust as you're working on that?
Right. Well, for the urban planet, because the main hemisphere of the planet is off to one side, that made a pretty strong case. But it's not as easy as just cutting the mat in half and then printing that. I actually go into Photoshop and completely like recenter it, adjust the resolution, do different things so that it's the exact image that I want to be on a 3-foot by 3-foot map. So it's true. If you're asking like what comes first, the chicken or the egg, the 3-foot by 6-foot comes first. That's really the design that I want to make. And then the square mat is just a cut from the image. It's not just a left or right or center kind of thing. I do, like to play with a little bit of asymmetry, a little bit of balance. But that's how I do it. I do the 6-foot first.
I know that, but I've seen some of the 3-foot. In fact, when we met at Adepticon, which, by the way, it was great to meet you in person.
Absolutely.
In Chicago.
I mean, that was just a huge windfall in a lot of ways, socially and stuff like that. I finished in the top half of the tournament. Whether that's a win or a disappointment didn't really matter to me as much as like being able to see people online, connect faces to names, and grab a drink at the end of the day. I mean, that was really cool.
No, it was a lot of fun for me. I'm glad I was able to get there for a day. But you did show me some of your new mats. The Scarif Gate one and the 3x3. It just looked great. And
absolutely, yeah, that's another one where the perspective is even more off center than the urban planet, because we want to seem like it's a more drastic approach, and I think it communicates that fairly well, and it still looks great on a 3-foot.
So here's another interesting question that I'm going to toss over you. This is kind of a softball one, because you said that you initially came up with the idea of this, well, when you were at the game store and you had to play on Magic mats, because you were playing Star Wars Armada. What actually got you into Star Wars Armada?
Okay. I'd always been a really big Star Wars fan, but I was never a tabletop player. I don't think I played anything larger than like Settlers of Catan before Star Wars Armada. But a good friend of mine, who played in San Antonio, which is another game store in Texas. I said, "Hey, you got to try this." And this is about 2017 or so, and I just thought it was so cool. I was so terribly bad. I always wanted to make the most thematic list. All my squadrons were like, a couple TIE fighters, a couple TIE bombers, a couple TIE advanced, because that's the kind of one that Darth Vader uses and stuff like that. But I felt that it was like really rewarding from a type of person who takes a long time to like kind of sit and think and consider the options. I don't like other game systems, for instance, where if somebody is attacking you, then you have to roll dice or probability, or if you get hit, you have to roll to see where it hits you, and then you have to roll to see how much the damage is, and you have to roll to see if your mech falls over. I think our Armada is just a nice blend of being able to sit and think and really consider your options, and then having like fast-paced action when it all comes together. So yeah, it was got me hooked ever since then.
Armada is kind of one of those fun games that's half chess and half throw buckets of dice, at least when you've got an SSD or a QA, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I do like definitely that, okay, you go and then I go and then you go, right? Definitely like chess. That was another little thing that I kind of picked up during the pandemic, like a lot of other people. Found myself wanting things to occupy my time, deep in thought and stuff like that. So I'd say it helps people play Armada.
I don't know if it's helping me out yet, but stay tuned. Maybe there's a couple victories down the road. So since we're talking about playing Armada, playing on the mats, two questions on here. So the first one is, are you doing online play and stuff like that as well?
Absolutely. I did the Vassal World Cup. I had, if you we're following that story, I had a really interesting pod where there was a three-way tie where three people could have been on 21 points. And it was a tough match against the former world champion. And, he knew that he could be eliminated, and he knew how hard I wanted to win. So it was a tough fight, but I got eliminated. And then in the, what do you call it? They had a consolation bracket, and I got third place there, and that was pretty exciting. So I think that the Vassal world is pretty fun, and then the tabletop simulator world, I participate in most of their quarterly tournaments and stuff like that. I've hosted events there before, and it's really nice to be able to see the international community.
No, it's great. I've done a little bit myself. Really looking forward to the next international team tournament. Those are kind of my favorite.
Oh, absolutely. We're already getting a Texas team round 2 together. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, you never know. Maybe my team will play yours. That'll be
fun. We'll take those Canadians down.
So a couple things that I'm going to then bring into this. First of all, you're now one of the collaborators here on IN Radio, and we've got your own special spot here down in our Discord channel. So by all means, everyone come check out. You can talk to Rob directly through our Discord.
Absolutely.
I know you're going to be posting new items on there as things come up. So if someone does want to pick up one of your mats, because Kickstarter's over, what's the best way to get them?
Right. So if you go to www.imperialstar.shop, that'll take us to the site that I run, where you can order the mats. There's a nice way to filter them by the size or the design that you want. So it's really simple to get it from there. I've also sold in a bunch of other places. I've had a Facebook Marketplace kind of listing, and that worked out for a while. And I'm sure it's still up in the Star Wars and X-Wing Swap and Sell Marketplace and Cantina, if I remember that name correctly. It's one heck of a group of a bunch of guys who kind of come together and help out with all kinds of accessories for the game. But once again, my website, Imperial Star Shop, that's the main place where I sell them.
And then on the shop, not only do you have all the different mats that you have in the 3x6 in the 3x3 size, but you also have kind of a reduced price version for stuff that's not quite exactly the 3 foot by 6 foot.
Right. You can never get something that's 6 foot long, like 72 inches. Some of them, they're off by 1 inch, which matters a lot to some people. But the idea is, these are ones that came out imperfect, and they still deserve to be sold. They're still amazing pieces of art. But if you're into a little bit more casual play, or you want something for your game store or your like recessed gaming table, where it's very important that the mat is not too long, we sell Urban Planet mats at a discount. They're 71 inches long. It's so funny. I get messages on the site all the time. What's the difference between these two mats? And I say, well, just one of them's a little bit short. That's just how it came out from the factory. And I've even had one person tell me, no, there has to be something else wrong. You can't discount a mat just because it's 1 inch short. And I didn't know what to tell the guy. Like, do you want to pay me more for it? But yeah, I mean, that's the only thing. We're working on a restock for Urban Planet. It should be up in the next 3 months, and that's where we can find more full size. For now, the clearance ones are left at $65, including shipping.
So Rob, clearly you're shipping these things worldwide now, even amidst the pandemic and the shipping issues that we're experiencing. Talk to me about shipping and the problems you may have had on that, or how that's been, interesting, good, bad, etc.
Right. Well, barring another ship getting stuck in the Suez Canal, we've had a 100% delivery rate. But looking back on how I used to ship these mats, I'm very surprised that we haven't lost one yet. So when I very first started off, it was just kind of like I got the mats in, and they're in these absolutely huge cardboard boxes, practically the size of a pallet with all of them together. And I didn't know how to get them individually out to people. My first way is I went to the hardware store and I got a 20-foot long PVC pipe with a 4-inch diameter, and I got a hacksaw and I cut the pipe into that 10-foot pipe into 4-foot-ish, or 3-foot-ish long pieces, and it had a jagged edge and everything. And I used duct tape to seal the edges of the pipe. And I got amazing compliments from that first customer, but he said that the duct tape had wrenched itself off on one side, and the mat was barely hanging in there by a thread to the inside of the product. So that wasn't going to sustain itself very well, because it bumped the entire weight of the package up to 10 pounds, which was just insanely expensive. I didn't have any outer packaging for it at all. Let's see here. And so when I upgraded to using the Wix store, it had an integrated way of using USPS to generate shipping labels. But that meant that I was constrained to like a smaller box. So I was like folding my mats in half to fit in this box, or using an overly large size one. And that was really terrible, because there are all kinds of surcharges for the 7-pound weight that our mats are, and the 36-inch long boxes that we use now. And so it was a big deal until I finally got 36 by 4 by 4 of these shipping grade cardboard boxes. So they're really amazing. And I even upgraded the way I was doing labels. At first, when I realized like, okay, the PVC isn't working out, I was like handwriting the labels on there to use priority mail, and that was just incredibly long. And the UPS map case boxes just weren't holding up. So when I got these bulk shipping boxes, it's a really thick cardboard. It supports the entire weight of the mat, and now I can use self-adhesive digital barcodes. and that works really great for the domestic ones, as well as it holds the customs information for our international packages. And I'm just really proud of how they fit together, because I can store them on a shelf, end on end, and it really supports the weight, especially with some of those thinner mats out there, like the vinyl ones. If they're shipped in a bag or a padded shipping bag, they just don't come in a good condition. So for these, I'm just really proud that we've been able to grow. And so as I've increased the quality of my shipping, it goes hand in hand with the increase in traffic on the site. Just last month, we had over 300 visitors. We're at over 62 sales, I think, by today, ever since we started this project. And that's just really exciting to me that, things continue trending upwards.
So with all the places, Rob, that you wind up shipping these mats to, just curious, is there like one in particular that's more than the other, or that's kind of exotic and interesting you've sent to?
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, and I think that, when I look at my sales, of course, the Urban Planet's going to have the most. It's been in the store the longest. But, out of all my Kickstarter backers and even the general sales, they're really loving the shield ring design, because of the perspective and things like that. I honestly thought it was going to be the Dockyard Foundry. There's a lot of detail that goes into that mat. The way we designed the nebula in the background, it wasn't just happenstance, right? But it's kind of funny how sometimes the ones you put the most effort in, those aren't always the ones that do best. And there's still a lot of really cool factors about the shield ring. And I think it really latches on that way, not just thematically, but just the design of how we did the shield pattern over the planet. And it's really interesting to see, there are real pockets, real, certain places that are just a nexus for Armada players. We've had a lot of orders go to the Chicagoland area, in the Midwest. Yep, a few in Minnesota, Southern California, Washington State, and a few in those areas. So it's really crazy how we've got a lot of West Coast representation going on, so I'm just really happy about that.
Well, we're looking forward to getting a couple ships on the Dockyard mat. That's all I'm going to say. If people want spoilers, you're just going to have to wait for it.
Absolutely.
So what future plans do you have you said you had 7 different mats right now. Do you have
Right.
some new ideas that are upcoming?
Right. Well, absolutely. I think at this point, I have to start considering when I'm going to do restocks. I've had several people ask about full planet themed mats, no Starscape, just like a above view, top down kind of thing. So I think we're going to look at revisiting some of our current designs and kind of like iterating on them to be, covering more of the mat. I've had several people come up to me from my local store who were on the Legion side of things. And I think, if we've got Armada, if we've got X-Wing, then that's a pretty logical next step. I don't want to talk about those plans because they're such an early stage, but I think that's going to be kind of an idea. And I want to be able to make it work, possibly for all 3 games. The scales are different, but there are certain ways where the look, imagine, Star Destroyers, using their sublight engines in the atmosphere to fight a battle. I think there could be a future there, just depending on how things go.
Neat. Well, I'd be looking forward to seeing what may come up.
The last thing I'll say is the service that I use to run the online shop has some integrations for Wish, of all shopping services, but it's kind of opened my eye. There's a lot of people who just shop on Etsy or just on eBay. I think Instagram has and Facebook have shop iterations, so that way I can kind of like make sure that people can get their their mat from any flavor of shop that they want. But honestly, I think I might just get on Wish for the novelty of it.
Well, everyone needs to really get an opportunity to play on these mats. As I've said a couple times, they're outstanding mats. They're really holding up well. I know we're using them throughout season 4 and 5. And then clearly you've seen them in all our finales and a couple of our robot videos as well. They hold up to the abuse that we give them, and man, we shine some pretty bright lights.
Oh, absolutely. Well, yeah. I was looking over things with the manufacturer. I mean, because these are essentially the same material, neoprene materials as a mouse pad. You can throw them in the washer machine and they'll turn out just fine. It's a really high thread count fabric on the top of it, so it's fairly durable, I have to say. I've stuck one in the back of my car for a year, and it still stands up to the heat. There's some of them, if they get squished, you just run a hair dryer over it and it'll take its shape back. I mean, these things are really surprisingly durable, even to me.
I haven't thought of running a hair dryer over one yet, but
well, I guess if you don't have a heat gun, or an iron might work. But yeah, I mean, they're actually to heat just like anything else. So it's really easy to bring them back to kind of like their original state.
All right, so Rob, thanks so much for joining me today for this Data Link episode. I'm glad I've learned a couple things about your production and some new bats that maybe will be coming out. Anything you want to say before we call this one?
Well, this is just a huge love letter. Thank you to all my Kickstarter backers, admirals. You've helped us stay the fight, and thank you very much.
All right, until next time, guys. Go check out Imperial Star Shop. Tons of great stuff there. Stay tuned to more Ion Radio battle reports where you'll be able to see these. And all the links for everything that Rob's got are down below. So until next time, I'm Ken.
And I'm InRobWeTrust.
And this is Ion Radio.